Hey, it's Mr. A. So we're going to work through remastery of the 5MD5C standard of composite volume. Looking at question number 2, this was definitely one of the most missed questions, and I think we just overthought it. In this question, they're trying to get you to split the shape up both ways. So splitting it horizontally as well as splitting it vertically. So we're going to kind of work with a new strategy here to see if we can't help to make a little more sense of this. I want you to actually grab 3 colors. I don't care what colors they are, but go ahead and pause this and find 3 separate colors. All right, now that you've got those, let's go ahead and take a look at the question. The first part says, one way to find the total volume of the aquarium is to break it into 2 rectangular prisms. The first with dimensions of 8, 3, and 3. So that's pretty important, so I'm gonna star that. And then they want me to figure out what the other dimensions are of the second part. So here's what I want you to do. If we see that the dimensions have to be 8, 3, and 3, well, let's think about it. The only way that I can get 3 and 3 is on this piece of the L over here. There's no 3 over here. The height, I bet, is 3, but this little length piece right here is not 3. So I know that it's got to be these 3 pieces. So what I'm going to do is, since this is our, we'll call it our width, and this is our height, we're going to go ahead and color code. So all of our widths, we are going to underline with green or whatever color you have. So pick one color. I know that this width here is going back at this angle, kind of from left to right. So I know that this 8 is also going to be a width. And I know that this big piece back here is also going to be a width, even though I don't know it. Do you notice how all those lines are going in the same direction? So that's super important to notice. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to split the shape so that I can get it to be like that. So this is going to be my 1 and this one's going to be my 2 in this case. So now that I've got the width, I also know the height. So I'm going to pick a different color and I'm going to put height as red. Well, I see that this is 3, so that means this is 3. And if that's 3, this is 3 because opposite sides of rectangles are equal. So that means this is 3 and this is 3. So I know that my height on the other shape is 3. And I think the color coding will really help you to see, right? All of these little red pieces are the exact same height. So far I see that I know the width and I know the height, but I see this 8, right? Well, where does this 8 come from? I see a 6 and I see this 8. But I've already color coded this 8. It can't be that 8. So that means I'm missing something up here, right? Well, I see that this is also going in the same direction as this, which is also going in the same direction as this. So if I see that this piece is 2 and this is 6, that means this has to be the 8. So finally, I figured out the dimensions that they gave me. So now I just look at the other one and figure out, well, what dimensions do I need? Well, if I made the cut right here, right, I don't need to find this total width yet because I have it. Notice how I made the cut right here. I'm going to even underline this one in red because it's going to be, actually this one's blue. So I'm going to underline that one blue. So I see that I cut this shape, right? So I know that it's 8. And that's my width, it's green. So now I need a blue and a red. Well, I see a blue and a red. I see my length of 2 and my height of 3. And I see that down here I have an 8, a 2, and a 3. So this is going to be one of my answers. So the second way, they're having us split it a different way. So instead of now splitting it vertically, they're splitting it horizontally. So this is still going to be my 1, this is still going to be my 2. Because look, it says 11, which I don't see an 11 up here right now, so I'm going to pause on that. And then it says 3. Well, I know that 3 over here is my height, because I already have that red piece. And I see 2 is my blue, right? Because it's my length. So I'm missing a green. I don't have a green. Well, if I'm cutting it this way, it's not just 8 anymore. It's this entire piece. But if this is 8 and this is 3 and they're all green, I just need to add those together and I'm gonna get 11. So the one down here that I'm looking for is this 11, this 2, and this 3. and which is this answer right here. So I don't need this one, and I don't need this one. And think about it too. If this says 8, 3, and 3, that's very unlikely that this is also going to be 8, 3, and 3 because they don't look like the same size pieces. Same thing here. If this is 11, 2, and 3, I know that this one is 11, 2, and 3. So like I know that it can't be that answer. And some people literally did this. Some people put the exact same thing here, but we actually needed the number 2 one. So I wrote that in there to show you a popular mistake that people made. They wrote down one of the shapes even though it gave them those dimensions, even though we figured them out. So what we really need for the answer is to look over at this piece, right? The number 2. Well, I need a blue, a green, and a red, or in your case, whatever 3 colors. So I see a blue here is 6 because I cut it off. I don't need the 8 in this case because I cut part of that off. So I have a 6, a 2, a 6, a 3, and a 3. So the real correct answer is 6, 3, and 3. So notice that, right? Down here, we didn't need this 11, 2, and 3, and we actually needed this over here, this 6, 2, and 3. Just got to be careful, right? Always reread the question and make sure it makes sense. If these were the same size, then it would be the same exact thing, but they aren't. So now, all we have to do to figure this out is use either one of these two. So we can use these 2 dimensions or we can use these 2 dimensions, but we've already done the hard work, so don't make it any harder on yourself. I like the looks of these numbers, so I'm gonna use this one. Well, if I know 2 times 3 is 6, and 6 times 11 is 66, and then over here, I know 3 times 3 is 9, and 9 times 6 is 54. So I'm gonna add 66 and 54, and I'm gonna get a total of 120, which is my answer down here. So basically all you needed to do was just make sure that you're splitting up the shape. I think color coding them is gonna help. If you're color coding the same direction of lines, that way there's a lot of numbers here, right? And crossing them out when we don't need them will help, but that pencil is huge when you're splitting the shape. That way you can erase it, all right? Good job, we're gonna take a look at one more. This part B was a tough question. Part A, you had to figure out what A and what B were. So I'm gonna use my color coding strategy again. So on part A, right, I looked at this 19 and I didn't know what A was, but I see that A and 19 are going the same direction. So I'm gonna highlight them green, but this 2 is also going in the same direction as well. So I've got a whole chunk of 19, so I'm gonna think of it like a number line. And I know that all of this is 19. And I know that a piece of it is 2. So then what does this piece have to be in order to get to 19? Well, if I know the whole thing is 19 and this is 2, that means that A has to be 17. Because 17 plus 2 is 19. And if I pick a different color, I also didn't know B, so I'm going to color that one blue. Well, it looks like the 28's going in the same direction as well as the 2. So all of those are going in the same direction. Same thing, think of it like a number line. If I know my whole chunk is 28, and I know that a piece of it is 2, well, what does this piece have to be? Well, I know that 26 plus 2 is equal to 28. So my B has to be 26. So looking at the question here, it says, Norman finds the total volume by breaking it into 2 prisms. Great, he did that well. He found the volume of one prism by multiplying 19, 2, and 3, and 28, 2, and 3. Okay, if they had you cut it in part A, do you think that you're gonna use both of those whole numbers in part B? No, so let's cut it this way, right? Let's say that we are gonna cut it like this. So this is my 1 and this is my 2. So since I cut it this way, I think it's a smart strategy to go ahead and draw a line through this number because it's the same direction. I don't need the 28. So that means when I'm looking at this, I actually need the 26. So volume of 1 and volume of 2. Well, volume of 1, I see a green, so my width is 19. I know my length is 2, and I don't have another color yet, so I'm going to look at the height, right? Well, I notice that these are all equal to 3 because they're all the same height. So my missing height over here is 3, which makes sense because the whole L shape looks to be the same height. Looking at 2, I cut off 28, so I need 26. And then I have my green and I have my red. So using those different colors can help me to remember, okay, if I use this number, I already used a blue, so I can't use another blue. I need the other 2 colors in order to get that. So it says, Norman's error is that he didn't find a calculation error wrong. He just accounted for too much of the dimensions. We actually didn't use the 28, right? And he used the 28. So that's actually incorrect. So when he would multiply those together, he'd get 282, which we know is not correct. So in these two drop downs right here, you would have been looking for these two expressions. And then over here, when it says Norman should have, well, we know what operation we always do with the two volumes. Once we get these, we always add them, right? It's additive volume. We don't multiply them, we don't divide them, we don't subtract them, we add them together. So let's go ahead and solve these. So 2 times 3 I know is 6. So 19 times 6. Well, 9 times 6 is 54. 6 times 1 is 6, plus 5 is 11. This one, 2 times 3 is 6. 26 times 6. 6 times 6 is 36. And then I have 6 times 2 is 12, plus 3 is 15. So I'm going to add 114, 156. I'm going to get 270, which is a little bit smaller than what he had because that makes sense. He used the whole 28. I know that I needed to cut it off. So now take some time, answer these couple of questions and see if you've got what it takes. If it's still not making sense, come talk to me. Ask a friend. Watch this with your parents. You just can't give up if something's still not making sense, all right? We can do this together. I believe in you.